Electrical power outages, so we don't use underground power. We have one at Central, and maybe one at
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Natchez Parish monthly school board meeting. It's November the 4th, 2021, 5 p.m. If you would, silence all of your devices, telephones, and anything else that would disrupt our decorum. Also, if you are going to speak to any agenda item, there is a form in the back. Fill it out, send it to me so we can recognize you. Our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Ms. Palmer, and our prayer will be led by Ms. Phelps.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, we come to you tonight and we thank you for everyone that's sitting around this horseshoe table. We thank you for their leadership and we thank you for their friendship and their service to our community. We ask that you bless our meeting. We ask that you order our words and our steps to where we honor you all through the meeting. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
We would like Ms. Rebels to establish quorum by roll call.
Mr. Danzy?
Here.
Mr. McGuire?
Here.
Mr. Benefield?
Here.
Mr. Garner?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Present.
Mrs. Edro? Mrs. Broadway?
Here.
Mrs. McGaskey?
Here.
Ms. Palmer?
Here.
Ms. Phelps?
Here.
And Mrs. Bell? Here. We have a quorum.
I will turn things in the hand of our superintendent, Mr. Frank Eagle.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Just a few quick updates from our last meeting. I wanted to touch on, if you recall, there was 2 items, informational reports that I think were left off. That was an issue internally about, what's it called, Ms. Kanika? Responsibility trees or something on
The approval tree.
approval trees, and so we've addressed that, and so that should not be an issue moving forward. Those will be coming from Ms. Hicks and Ms. Felicia Washington, and we shouldn't have that issue again. I want to touch base with you. This is our first full week without masks, and so we wanted to, watch that data, and I know everyone was wanting to see that. It is in line with exactly what we've had before. In fact, it's one of our lower weeks. We had 0.05 of 1% positivity rating, so that's 0.05 of 1%, which means 3 kids out of a parish of 5,488 students tested positive, and we had 0.3% quarantine. And if you recollect, I said we could potentially see quarantines go up. Quarantines are actually right in line with where they've been for the past 7 weeks, so that's good news. I also want to touch on the fact that I got to do something very cool today, but I only got to do it because of an amazing teacher. And that is, I got to travel to Baton Rouge and have lunch at the governor's mansion and meet our First Lady, Miss Donna Edwards, but that was only because Miss Paula Callender at Natchez Central, our very own, was awarded for her 2019 state finalist Presidential Award for Excellence in Math and Science Teaching. She is a science teacher. She was awarded that in 2019. She should have already gotten to go to the White House and be recognized. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, she was not able to do that. But they recognized her again at the State House, and we were able to see Dr. Timmel from LDOE, also Ms. Holloway, our Bessie president, and we did all this in honor of the amazing teaching that Ms. Callender. So I just I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that one of our teachers. Also, I provided for all of you this PowerPoint. Ms. McGaskey in our last meeting had asked just for something that she could grab hold on in terms of the our quarantine and our masking guidelines. The only thing that you're going to see on this that is not updated is we no longer have masking policy. So just as you go through here, anything you see that requires masking, you can just ignore, with the exception of, remember when students are quarantined, if they come back early from quarantine, they have to wear their mask for those extra days. And then also, if they're exposed but they're vaccinated, for 2 weeks they have to wear their mask as well. And again, that's to be in line with LDH, because in order to go to no masking, you have to continue adopting the quarantine policies of LDH and CDC, which we have never faltered from. Finally, one other thing that Ms. McGaskey had asked me to touch base with and kind of give everyone a refresher and give the community an idea about is our policy, and I say policy, our policy, it's really a federal policy for how a student or a parent can initially engage their student in the special education process. And so it's very simple. It's really 3 steps, and it does get a little more complicated after that, but I think this is a good kind of first discussion of it. A parent or an LEA, so the LEA is Louisiana Educational Authority, can refer the student to SBLC for evaluation purposes. SBLC is School Building Level Committee. Every school has one, so that can come from the parent or the school. The second step is the parent or the LEA, based on the data, can deny an evaluation. And there's some subcomponents to that. The parent must agree to the evaluation for it to be completed in writing. So even if the LEA says we need to complete this evaluation, if the parent says no, I do not want my child to be evaluated, it can never proceed. In fact, on that initial evaluation, parent signature is a required component and nothing can happen until that's on there. Part B of that is the LEA, meaning the school or the district can refuse requests for evaluation, but must provide a written explanation of why the request was denied. Typically, these are going to be based on factual data that says the student does not qualify because ... And then number 3, if both the LEA and the parent agree that an initial evaluation will start, it must be completed within 60 business days. Now, I will tell you, and Ms. McGaskey, I wanted to mention this because many parents, that 60 days is concerning for them, because when your child is experiencing, needs help, they're not experiencing success, 60 days feels like an eternity. But the important thing in this is that we have to get the data to truly identify the student's exceptionality. And that can only be done through multi-tiered levels of intervention, or RTI. So we first have to see, this could be because the student, they may not have a true disability, it may be because they're not sleeping well. Maybe they're just not in a good mood, or maybe they're not coming to school that often. Those are not true disabilities. So that 60-day evaluation period is to determine if it's a true disability and get rid of all the alternative possibilities, as it were. And so they have to complete that. One of the things we get most from parents is parents will say, well, it's been 60 days. Unfortunately, say the student misses 20, 30, maybe even more days during that 60-day period, we cannot determine if they have a true disability, because that would be a lack of educational opportunity. They're not succeeding because they're not in school. So all that stuff, I can tell you, if we ever have a parent who feels like they're not getting through that process successfully, I've gotten calls on that from time to time. Ms. Lacaz, our supervisor of the Department of Exceptional Student Services, also gets calls about that. Because sometimes we can have something kind of, not happen at school, and when we can kind of expedite things as much as we can, but that 60 days is still very necessary, completely necessary. So that's all I have, but if there's any questions on any of that, I'll definitely answer as best I can.
Yes, in reference to this, I had asked that that this information you just gave us, make it available to the public.
Yes, ma'am. So actually, I'm glad you said that, because one of the things we're doing, as you all know, we're doing our new website, which we gave you an original date of November 19th, but due to the company and some logistical needs with them, it's probably going to be closer to that first week of December.
Okay.
One of the things I've asked every department head is to look at our website, see what's on there, see what's not on there. If there is anything a parent, a teacher, a student needs that we can put in on that website, it needs to be on there. So a parent rights booklet is something that'll be on there, and we give those to every parent who comes in for an IEP. but also a very simplistic version of, here's the process, who do I need to talk to, and how do I navigate this process to be successful for their student. So that will be on the website for all students to be, all parents to be able to access.
Okay, next question, is there extenuating circumstances such as, I know you asked for information from different specialists, doctors and whatever, and it could be possible that they may not be able to provide all the information that's required within that 60-day time frame. If there are extenuating circumstances, can it be extended, or what happens if it's not provided?
I think that would be a conversation between the parent and the desk department if they're,
Okay.
but we are mandated to adhere to that timeline. But what I could do very easily is, I have a SPED background, but I'm definitely not as adept at it as Ms. Lacaz or some of her staff. I could definitely have one of them come and give y'all an update, just in general of the desk department, and kind of go over some of these more, some of the finer details if y'all would like that for the December meeting.
Okay.
Okay?
And this is available to us by email, the information you just gave?
That was a printout, my printout was just now, but I'll email it to y'all and I'll get y'all a copy as soon as possible. I just got hit back at
Okay.
about 30 minutes ago
Okay, thank you.
from Baton Rouge, so.
Okay, I understand.
I do say that some of that information is on our website. You can pull it off.
Okay.
Some of it is. All right. Any old business? New business? We all have looked over our consent agenda.
I will offer, Mr. Harry.
All right, been offered by Mr. Eugene Garner. Second by Mr. Latoya. Any questions, any comments, concerns? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The informational reports.
Sales tax report that I gave you, were there any further questions on that? Also, have looked at the one I'm going to present to y'all next month. It is equally as good. That's good news.
So you
got it. I got it
more
emailed to me
cars
this
to buy?
What's that? Yeah, just want to let y'all know it'll be a good report next month.
All right, all right. Any questions from this page?
I would like to just make a correction. The other night I said Wednesday the 9th is Tuesday the 9th. Do y'all have that? Okay. And expect a little dancing.
You got a DJ?
Yes.
All right, all right.
The new night.
Any updates on the budget? That y'all, or no, there are no updates on the budget. It just says updated budget here on the Any questions about the budget? There's nothing new to report on the maintenance report either. As far as item E, the Cimarron Group, regarding Hurricane Laura insurance claims, Joe is here to answer any further questions, if y'all have any further ones about that.
There is none.
Okay, and Shauna Hicks is not here for a nutritional report, but this is actually the report she was referring to the other day.
The other thing, we have that in our packet.
Okay.
All right. All right, Mr. Dancing?
Item 7A, permission to advertise for bids. We have none that I'm aware of. Item 7B, take appropriate action on bids. We have none.
Mr.
Item
Langston?
7C, resolution to lease mineral rights as directed by Louisiana State Mineral and Energy Board.
I somehow the update did not make it to your board, but I gave y'all a copy. The word Caddo has been replaced with Magnus Parish. So, anyhow, sorry about that. Once again, oversight, but y'all are approving the, resolution as we will execute it, and then it's the one that's on your desk.
And I'll offer that resolution.
It's been offered by Mr. Danzig,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Phelps. Any questions, any comments, any concerns?
You talking about this paper?
Yes, yes, sir.
It still have cattle in the bottom.
Oh, wait, which page?
See where
The second page is correct.
Okay, well, go on to the second bit.
But the second paragraph is.
I will go get that down here.
What is that now?
Mr. Loscom, if you,
I need a
if
new
you pull it,
proofreader.
if you
Not
pull
me.
it up, if you pull it up in Control F, you can replace all.
That's what I thought I had done, that's the first one.
We know what we talking about.
Okay.
Just get it signed. Then I get it back.
I had my hand on it, I didn't see it this time.
I saw it, I was saying.
Oh, well, sorry about that.
All right. Any other concerns, comments?
So the results of this will be a bid, permission to give this group to bid. The results of those bids will be approved by y'all.
Roll call.
Mr. Danzig,
Yes.
Mr. Metoyer,
Yes.
Mr. Benefield,
Yes.
Mr. Garner,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mrs. Pedro,
Yes.
Mrs. Broadway,
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey,
Yes.
Ms. Palmer,
Yes.
Ms. Phelps,
Yes.
and Mrs. Bell.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Item 7D, Technology Department Vehicle Purchase, Mr. Cozad.
Any further questions on that?
Yes, sir.
At this point, we have no resolutions that we need to do anything with.
Because it's state bid, it's also underneath the $30,000 purchase.
Yeah.
Under
And it's
current
being
policy.
financed by the ESSER 2 funds and
Yeah.
stuff. It doesn't
Basically,
require
basically, this was just informational.
informational.
Yeah, wasn't anything.
Oh.
I'll second.
It's no action.
No,
No action.
And that concludes finance, Mr. President.
All right, thank you so very much. Personnel, Ms. Linda Page. I think it's Mr. Kozar.
Yeah. Any additional questions, concerns, comments?
We just thank God and,
When will the job be advertised?
As soon as possible, and we'll interview as soon as possible. We'll try to rush it, and if we fall inside the legal timelines, I would like to see it done before, Thanksgiving break, but I don't know if we have time for that.
Okay.
But as fast as we can.
okay, consider approving creation of digital content public communication coordinator position in lieu of existing contracted position.
I'll offer.
Okay. And offered by Ms. Broadway, been seconded by Mr. Metoyer. Any further questions or comments,
Do you have
concern?
one comment or question? So part of the job description is public communications. Will that include actually sending press releases to the media?
Yes, ma'am. The current contract position already sends press releases to the media, and they'll continue that
Okay.
role.
Thank you.
Roll call vote.
Mr. Danzig,
Yes.
Mr. Metoyer,
Yes.
Mr. Benefield,
Yes.
Mr. Garner,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mrs. Pedro,
Yes.
Mrs. Broadway,
Yes.
Ms. McGaskey,
Yes.
Ms. Palmer,
Yes.
Ms. Phelps,
Yes.
and Ms. Bell.
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right.
Do I have any questions in regards to the project manager for the Aware 2 grant?
Yes.
So,
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. I don't need a mic to speak, but
Hold on, before you get started, let us go and make the motion so then you can, make a comment.
I move that we grant permission to the district to hire a project manager to manage grant activities and fund for Aware.
and I will second that.
Okay, it's been motioned by Ms. Phelps, been, seconded by Mr. Garner. Any comments, any questions, any concerns? Ms. Bill?
Yes, sir. Under the job description, under paragraph 3, qualifications for position, I notice you have bachelor level or above in education and or mental health field, such as psychology, social work, and or counseling and education. Setting M, master's degree preferred. Is it possible that we can add or make it a requirement for that professional individual to be experienced in working with at-risk students?
This comes directly from the State Department.
This position, based on my understanding, is going to be housed at Natchitoches Parish Technical Career Center, correct?
It is, but I'm saying the job description is given to us from the State Department. So it's a requirement that they create the job description as part of the grant. So I would hate to limit us in saying that they have specifically at-risk students when they've worked maybe in a prison population, or they've worked in as a, they've worked in a mental health institute, you know, because then if we say they, you know, it would limit our ability to hire somebody that's worked in a psychiatric facility as opposed to them, you know, saying just at-risk students. Does that make sense? And I don't know that we can change the job description.
I'm not sure if we could add on to well, because I've worked at the Career Center. It's one of the places where I'm happy this project manager will be housed. However, the population there is a very sensitive population where the personality of this person and the level of education and ability to pretty much understand that population is very much necessary. I'd rather go through a rigorous hiring process rather than having somebody over there and them quitting after a month or two because they can't understand the vulnerabilities of that particular campus or location, what have you. So I thank you for answering the question, but I'll be doing in-depth research on that as well.
Okay.
Any further comments or concerns?
Our goal is to hire somebody with a master's level social work or psychology or counseling degree, actually.
And is this pretty time sensitive, right?
Yes, sir. We are actually required to have someone hired by November 30th.
And this person is housed where?
Our goal is to house them at NPTCC.
Okay. Specifically for that school?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But the grant manager the project manager will be over the entire Aware to grant, program, which means that they will not only, they'll be housed there, but they'll also be overseeing possibly some use at another school. I mean, the project is not just for NPTCC. Okay. It's for our district.
Okay, and you did indicate a few days at the previous meeting that there would be more than, there'll be a person or two to assist the,
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Pinckney and myself will be overseeing.
I'm concerned about the student.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Pinckney and myself will, and we'll work closely with that person.
Okay.
All right. Roll call, please.
Mr. Danby?
Yes.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Benefield?
Yes.
Mr. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Guidros?
Yes.
Mrs. Broadway?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
And Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you.
Executive report.
Okay, item 9A, do we want to take each individual one for roll call voting, or?
Well-
That's, you know, because I don't think any of them are controversial and they've all been
And
vetted.
they've all come through the state.
Yeah.
And the only one I do have some questions about is, I think, maybe,
F.
or, no, yeah, choice. Yeah, I think that's the only one I got questions about. But if we can take them, unless somebody else has some questions on it and things like that.
So item 9A, school board ethics policy.
to take them as a group or
I
get
guess we'll go
it?
into individual if that's okay with you. Okay. 9A School Board Ethics Policy. Any questions? Concerns?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been, offered by Mr. McGuire, seconded by Ms. Broadway. Any further questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mr. Danzy?
Yes.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Benefield?
Yes.
Mr. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Gedros?
Yes.
Mrs. Broadway?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
And Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Motion passed.
9B Curriculum Policy.
I'll offer.
Second.
Offered by myself. And, seconded by Mr. McGuire. Any comments or questions? Roll call.
Mr. Danzy?
Yes.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Benefield?
Yes.
Mr. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Gedros?
Yes.
Mrs. Broadway?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
And Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Item 9C Kindergarten Policy.
I'll offer.
I'll second.
And offered by Mr. Danny and seconded by Mr. Garner. Any comments, any questions, any concerns?
This is gonna be mandatory.
Yes, ma'am. It was passed, by both houses of the legislature this summer.
Fields, I think, fought for this.
Senator Cleo Fields, he's head of the education committee, really pushed for it, and it puts us in line with most other states.
Okay. Let me ask this quickly. So pre-K is not mandatory, just kindergarten?
No, ma'am, correct.
Okay.
I think, if you were to ask me, in 10 years, will pre-K be mandatory, I would think it would be. I think it's on that same.
Or less.
Or less.
He's pushing for that
Mhm.
as we speak.
Earlier we can get kids, the better
Yes.
for the.
All right.
I was just gonna say, just out of curiosity, do we know what kind of an impact this is gonna have in our parish as far as, do we have a significant number of children that are not attending kindergarten?
So I actually asked that for statewide, and I believe the study said that this would increase the overall statewide kindergarten population. It was a number, I think, under 10,000. I actually think it was under 5,000, because as many of you probably talk to people around town, and maybe even yourself, everyone kind of thought kindergarten was mandatory, because the law was a little interesting. It's not mandatory, but if you start school, then it becomes compulsory. So it was kind of in the middle, and it was weird that it took us so long to pass it, because there were people, specifically, I think more of the homeschool folks, who were against it, because it was another thing to compel you to go to school in the public system. But for most people I talked to, thought it was already there.
Well, that's because of that LA4 program, so many
Mhm.
students in the LA4 program, and then like you said, once you start, you can't stop.
So it was a small impact, but I think over time, it's the first step in the next step. And the next step is probably a compulsory pre-K, or maybe even one day pre-K through.
All right, roll call.
So if you have kids that, have not been in pre-K, they become, age 5, and they've never been in the system, how do we find out? Because I know of some kids that are at age 5, and now that it's become mandatory, it's different. But, you can have some people that will not adhere. How do we find out?
That'd probably be a really good question for Ms. DuBois, because they do child search, child find, and they are able to find, I would say, 99.9% of students. Every once in a blue moon, when you have someone who's very transient, and they're moving states, they're moving schools, that you can have one or so that, I say one or so, you have a very small percentage statewide that you miss, but this law and laws like it are means to compel people to do that. That being said, like, some of us will maybe pass a stop sign on the way home today. You're always gonna have some people who navigate around those, but I think this is a means to make that a very, very small number.
All right, roll call vote.
Mr. Dancy?
Yes.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Benefield?
Yes.
Mr. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Gedros?
Yes.
Mrs. Broadway?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
And Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Item 9D, compulsory school attendance age policy.
I'll offer.
Offered by Mr. Benefield,
I'll second.
seconded by Ms. Phil. Any concern, any questions? Okay, roll call vote.
Mr. Danzy?
Yes.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Benefield?
Yes.
Mr. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Gedros?
Yes.
Mrs. Broadway?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
And Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Item 9E, school admission policy.
I'll offer.
And offered by Mr. McGuire, and seconded by Mr. Danzig. Any concerns, any questions? Right, roll call.
Mr. Danzy?
Yes.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Benefield?
Yes.
Mr. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Gedros?
Yes.
Mrs. Broadway?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
And Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Item 9F, public school choice policy. I'll offer.
I'll second. Ms. Phil, and seconded by Ms. Brandon. Ms. Goodrow. All right, any questions, any comments? I think we have some comments. My question was, we said that, well, you know, and I know it's already passed, but if a person goes to another district, that money follows them, right? So, you know, I've always been concerned, I think I've talked with our CFO about it. I think that's going to cause us to have to do a better job in having a better product. Because if not, if you got kids who are crossing over into these other districts, we're losing money. And that's the only thing I wanted to share with us, you know. We have that happening now. And I know you're working hard trying to stop it from happening. Eugene and I have watched it eat up some funds. And I thank you again for recognizing that. And before I even saw this, you all met with us telling us we got to have a better product. And to all of you around this horseshoe, thank you all for being concerned about that kind of stuff, because that's one of the most crucial things that we are here for, is to make sure that we have the resources to educate these children. That's what I wanted to say on that.
And so based on what I was reading in regards to public school choice, previously you had to attend the school in the district where you reside, so that's been removed. So a child can live wherever in the parish and attend school wherever they please, wherever the parent chose to send them.
Yes, ma'am. A form of this has existed for, I believe I asked Ms. Theus last year for the preceding year's number of students who opted into school choice. And I believe it was less than 4 students parish-wide. I want to say it was only 1 student in the past 2 years who had opted into it. So we have a very low number who opt into this. Typically, it's similar to what Reverend Harris said. What you see is parents just, they're not going to go through us. They're just going to provide a different address to another parish. And we see that happening as well to us. And there's no way to know, as long as they give us proof of residency. We don't have time to go investigate and say, oh, this water bill is actually, not your domicile. We have to go by what they provide us. So this really, it's legal, it's based on the legislation, but typically we're not seeing people utilize this method of school choice, at least consistently in Natchitoches Parish we haven't seen.
So basically, they just go to another parish and that money follows them, right?
Correct. Yes.
May I make a comment? when it comes to, the public school choice in other parishes where you'll have, 2 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and 3, high schools, if a elementary school or the elementary school that is in my district, if they have a low school performance score, then that parent is able to remove that child from that low scoring school onto another school. And this gives them permission to do that.
So, all right, were you done?
I'm done.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So I was just, my initial assumption was that this meant still within the parish, but that this, the way I'm hearing this discussion continue to unfold, this could also be across
That's right.
parish lines?
And that's what I wanted to make sure that we understood.
Okay.
But again, I'll tell y'all, because when you first read this, it is kind of, I had similar reaction, but I don't see this impacting, because we already have, as we all said, we have people who are doing this, and they're doing it in their own way, in a de facto way. So I don't see a larger number of people taking advantage of this. I see, if anything, as I reported to y'all, I think last month or the month before, we're up 105 students, Mr. Watson, from last year. Now, we want to get to pre-COVID numbers, which means we probably need to go up another 100 to 200 students. And that's what I'm looking at. I'm not so much worried about this as just, let's work on, especially our schools on kind of the border of parishes. We have to ensure that they have those SPSs where parents don't want to jump on.
That's right.
Typically, especially if you notice that it doesn't provide for transportation, because it says if it's a cost to us, well, it is a cost to us. So you're not going to necessarily see someone from the middle of Natchitoches probably going to, Alexandria Senior High. But you could see someone who lives in the far reaches of your district possibly going to a Red River or something of that nature. Typically, they're not going to go through us and file all that paperwork. They're just going to use a relative's address or something of that nature, which, is unfortunate, but it's already occurred.
And I just want to let us know again that we are addressing this. Because even in your area, we're addressing it. We can't sit like an ostrich with our head in the sand and not believe that it's not happening.
Well, me and Mr. Walston went over some numbers yesterday. For the past 10 years, Natchitoches Parish has lost students almost every year. Well, it's great to report that this past year is the first year we've gone up. So
The graph was very dominant. Yes, you got a graph together.
Also,
So it's saying something.
Yes.
that as you implement like the music and art classes and stuff, right, and start offering some of the things that we let slip through the side or whatever, bring those activities back, we will see some of the people that has crossed the line come back in our direction.
Well, and if y'all recall, and I've mentioned this a few times to y'all, it's one thing I believe, relatively soon we're going to be a B parish, which is great, but what that doesn't entail is that there's still going to be possibly D and F schools within that B. So it's not about becoming an A, it's not about becoming a B, it's about every school being a place where parents feel confident that their student can go and get equitable education. So and now what will that result in? That will result in us being an A or a B, which is great, but we can't say, oh, we're an A, because you could still have some failing schools in that. We just need to worry about each individual school. So, sorry, I could wax philosophical.
Yeah. All right. Roll call vote.
Mr. Danzy?
Yes.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Benefield?
Yes.
Mr. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Gidros?
Yes.
Mrs. Broadway?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
And Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Motion passed.
9G, student privacy and education records policy. I'll offer.
Second.
Been offered by Ms. Phelps and seconded by Ms. Palmer. Any questions, any comments, any concerns? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Mr. Danzy?
Yes.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Benefield?
Yes.
Mr. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Gidros?
Yes.
Mrs. Broadway?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Item 9H, Fatherhood Initiative Mentoring Program.
Again, we've been talking about this, and been in contact with, the 4 founders of the, Dads on Duty. They are planning to come down here and meet over with Dr. Eloy and over at, the junior high, because we have to have a pilot, program first to see how it works. And utilizing some of the groups and organizations for a fatherhood initiative. So that's what we're trying to do on that.
And I want to mention, number one, I think this will be great at a lot of schools and everything, but I think pilots are important because we can work out the kinks. But I do want to mention that Miss Bernard was here Tuesday.
She was.
She had to leave, but I do want to mention, she had a literacy night at NGH that night. They had over 300 parents participate. She said, she talked to some faculty, it was the largest gathering of community outside of like a sporting event, something of that nature, like the Jamboree, and it was purely academic. And I hope you saw some pictures from that. I just think some great things are going on at NGH, and this is, it gives me goosebumps to think about this combined with what's already kind of ball rolling. So kudos to her and her staff for putting that on. I think also Miss Carly Renter and Miss Rebecca Terrio, and then also the Colonel, they were all very important in getting that going. So
the whole staff over there is doing an excellent job, and that piggybacks on
Yes, item 9A, sorry,
Yeah.
creative and performing arts.
that's the other thing.
I'm sorry, before we proceed, were we supposed to vote on it?
No.
Okay.
Just,
Discussion.
that's another thing that I've been over at the junior high, as well as all of the principals and things are really wanting music and as much of it as they can get. And we have put a lot more money into these areas, but I think there's so much more that's going to be done as soon as probably we get president of the Northwestern, because we've been dealing with them and talking with them as well. And I think everybody on this board has mentioned about the creative and performing arts, and so.
yeah, so what I'd like to do is actually, Ms. Dorothy had talked about, and we mentioned this in my superintendent report from Tuesday, December 9th, because it's a Thursday and we wanted to make sure as many people could be there. We can create a Zoom, but that'll be our first budget workshop. And I have some things, me and Mr. Wascom have some initiatives or really some focus areas on the budget for the next fiscal year that we'd like to talk to you all about. But I think that would be a perfect time to really discuss what we want in terms of creative and performing arts, and then also, Mr. Wascom, he's always the buzzkill, he'll tell us what we can do and all that fun stuff. So, because, we want it right now, if I could create, something equivalent to what they have in Sydney, Australia, and the symphony orchestra there, I would do it. I just don't have $10 million to just do that, but we want to do as much as we can with the resources we have, and he's really good about telling us how to do that, and then also trying to create $1.50 out of $1. So he'll help us there, but I think that would be a great time to really start the initial talks of what that looks like.
And we all know that the creative and performing arts and things also boost academics. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. And I've been on cruise ships and met up with people who went to the theater department at Northwestern. And it just makes you beat on your chest to see one of these performances go on. And I just see people coming from Niagara. We had a person, God bless the deceased, but he used to play on I think it was The Young and the Restless, Mr. Hamp Williams' son, Vince. And, we have some talent in Natchitoches, you all, or they come through Natchitoches. We hear about the Steel Magnolias and things like that. We have some singers, that's been through here. Right now, my nephew is touring. He matriculated at Grambling State University in the band, and now he's touring all over, playing. You got a person right here, Mr. Dancing. He don't look like a giver, but he plays. You know? He's gonna be up at Mr. Benefield place tonight. No. So, if there's any questions, any comments?
I'd like to comment, a popular gospel singer, is, straight out of Natchitoches, as he would say, Mike.
That's right.
Are you talking about the young man that was on, on one of the TV shows?
American
recently?
Idol,
Ellen, that was Deshaun.
Oh, Deshaun.
Deshaun,
Yeah,
yes.
Deshaun.
he's a product of that.
He was a little kid, and I would take him and let him and all his whole family sing.
Yes, they are family singers.
All right, thank you so very much. Thank you all so very much for your time and your talent.
I won't do it, John.
Somebody done that.
Have you with us?